So folks, how are you doing? You are very welcome back to another episode of the Behind the Walls podcast with myself and
Ferg.
Ferg is also calling himself the Retrofit Guy now, so check him out on social media. Really exciting news has just come out. The SEAI have upped their grants. They've added in a few more grants. It's not massive changes, but it can be massive changes for you as a homeowner. So, as always, we've got the finger on the pulse. We are here to genuinely ask the questions that need to be asked, the questions that myself and Ferg are both hearing literally since the announcement has been made. So no better man to answer those questions than Mr. Stephen Farrell from the SEAI. But Stephen is here, and we're going to go straight into it, Steve. So
great.
Let's talk grants.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for the opportunity and linking in with us. It's great because there's a lot of information out there, and you know what? Sometimes you have to just stop it and get the clarification that's needed. So hopefully this session will bring it about. You know.
Yeah.
It's been a mad week since the grants were announced. A lot of positive vibe. A lot of the supply chain activated again. Homeowners inquiring. Even our call centres are like 1,500, 2,000 calls a day. So it's done what's needed, and people are kind of thinking in the right space at the right time of year.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
So look, let's be honest. There was a lot of people hoping that these grants were going to be lifted. There was a lot of will I wait? Will I go for it? All of that type of stuff going on. So the moment has now happened.
Yes.
So now it's decision time for people. So people who are listening and watching, they're now going to go, right, is it the right time for us now to start taking advantage of these grants? And if it is, which one? Is it going to be the one-stop shop? Is it going to be an individual? So talk us through the difference now between literally last week.
And in terms of the time, there's no better time. People are turning on their heat more, obviously, over the past 6-7 weeks, and people are getting a sense of, oh God, how can I make my house more comfortable, healthier, warmer, and so on. But there's been 6 or 7 grant kind of enhancements or new grants brought in, and it's really caught people's kind of imagination and attention, because they're looking at their bills and they're saying, how do I get my bills down? How do I get everything kind of working in the right way? So the first one that I'd always call out, and we're always driving towards kind of heat pump technology. We've looked at the cost of the heat pump through our grants over the past year, 12 months. And we're kind of saying, you know what, we need to try and boost. We need to kind of move with the market as well. So we've increased our heat pump grant bundle. It was 10.5K, it's up to 12.5K now.
Yeah.
So that's broken out into 6.5 for the heat pump, 2K for your RADs or central heating boiler upgrades, and then we've introduced a new 4K renewable heat bonus. So that's you transitioning away from fossil fuels, moving towards more renewable heating systems. So if a homeowner's thinking of going down the heat pump route now and looking at the heat pump bundle, that's a 12.5K grant, which is fairly substantial.
Absolutely. So Ferg, what do you think? Is it what we were hoping it would be?
Just on that, just to clarify, that package was available up to 10,500 through a one-stop shop up till now. And what Stephen is just after saying there now is now available as an individual application.
Correct.
Just to clarify that this is available to an individual grant application.
Exactly. So when you look on our website, if you want to do a complete upgrade via the one-stop shop, they can offer a 12.5K grant. But if you want to do it bit by bit via the individual route, you can also get a 12.5K.
It was 6.5. It
was 6.5. So it's on par now.
Yeah, it's a significant
big increase.
Yeah.
It's a big increase. Like a lot of people, like we've listened to a lot of people over the past 2 years, and we're always kind of tuning in, and a lot of them can only do it bit by bit.
Okay.
But the key thing is we help them to do it bit by bit, but keep them in the right direction, so they're spending the money in the right sequences.
Yes.
And so forth. So another area that we've looked at, we've looked at cost increases over the last 12 months, and we've increased our attic and cavity wall grant via the Better Energy Homes or the individual route and the one-stop shop route as well. So we've looked at the costs and we've centred that around the 80% median cost. So basically some houses will get it for 100%, but some will get it for 80%. So it's all based on the median cost. So it's helping people out that bit more as well.
Yeah.
And we've also introduced a new high temperature heat pump pilot grant via the one-stop shops. So we're always kind of looking at new innovative technologies that can work better in homes with high temperatures, and they're similar to boilers, so maybe there's less central heating upgrade work, less disruption in our homes. So we're testing out that new technology as well. So there's a lot kind of happening.
Same grant available.
Same grant available, 12.5K and so forth. So
let's talk about that for a second. And let's kind of break it down so it's a high temperature heat pump.
Heat pump, yeah.
So it works Am I right?
It works very much the same. Like it's specifically for this refrigerant called R290, which is a natural refrigerant, propane, and it's highly efficient. So it extracts heat from the air much easy, and it transfers the heat from the refrigerant into your central heating system, circulation pipes more easy. So essentially, it's a more efficient refrigerant than the older R32s or R410s.
So is it literally pumping out a higher temperature?
Correct, yeah, higher temperature, and it operates at a similar temperature to a boiler, but you're getting those efficiencies of heat pump technology such as 350%, and that's where the energy savings and reduced bills come from, and there's less requirement and disruptions in terms of upgrading your radiators.
So there's no fossil fuel, obviously. It's
correct.
You still
it's still a renewable technology, generating heat from the air outside.
And then you're, in a lot of cases, probably still able to use your existing radiators. Is that what you're saying? Or if you're upgrading them, you're not. The size is probably. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Ferg. Like.
Yeah, no, I mean the whole idea of it's actually a very good solution for someone that has an end of life. We'll call it emergency breakdown, and you're looking for a straight swap out.
Okay.
You now have an opportunity to go with a heat pump.
Very good.
Straight away without having to. It disregards. I'm not going to get too technical now, but it disregards the heat loss indicator, the HLI requirements, because it runs at a higher temperature. But important to emphasise that it is also able to run at the lower temperatures. It's still a heat pump.
And it gets the efficiencies.
Exactly.
But to break it down in simple terms, then this is a viable option for somebody who's changing their boiler. So in the standard situation, the gas or oil boiler breaks down. People are considering, should I upgrade it? They used to go, I'd love to go for a heat pump, but it's going to cost me too much, or it's going to be too much intrusion. Now there's it's
basically moving towards a plug and play type of thing. Obviously, the more insulation you have on your fabric, the better, but there's no heat loss indicator requirements, so people can avail of it. There's flow temperatures is designed similar to a boiler, but it only operates at that flow temperature 1 to 2% of the year. It operates at lower temperatures, so that's where you get the efficiencies, and that's where you get your savings in your bills. So it's more of a plug and play option.
And you're still going to dramatically save in your
exactly,
your bill. And you're taking advantage of a grant as well.
Correct. So if people are interested in that, it's delivered through our registered one-stop shops. We have 29 of them at the minute, and they can apply via the one-stop shops and so on. It's a pilot, so we want to do is see how they perform, gather some data with a view to rolling it out mainstream over the next 18 months.
Excellent. So just jumping back down to the attic insulation one.
Yes.
So that's gone up to €2,000, am I right in saying that?
€2,000. So it's gone up. So what we've done is we've looked at all the costs over the past year, and we've kind of, because the cost of construction work has gone up slightly, we've just recalibrated back to 80% of the cost grant. So we've done that for attic, and we've also done it for cavity. So it means like 60% of your energy loss is through your walls in your attic. So we're trying to get people to look at the fabric part first, and to make those steps to reduce their energy loss by 60%, which will translate into the reduced energy bills, which everyone's focusing on at this time of the year. And
then you have external wall insulation as well, or is that in the same cavity one, or is that?
No, external wall insulation has remained the same. So for a detached, it's 8K. I think dry lining is 6.5K for a detached, and it goes down depending on the typologies. And so on.
It's only 4.5. Don't look for 6.5.
For the detached, yes, 6. Yeah, exactly. But the big thing there is that the cavity wall and the attic insulation, we've kind of looked at the costs, and we've brought it back up to the 80%, so the grant covers 80% of the cost.
Okay. And again, just, I know I'm asking simple questions here, but the way that somebody applies is the exact same as it always was.
Yeah.
And again, the same credentials is the exact same.
So it's the same. We have an online for the individual route. If people want to take this step by step, they go onto the SEAI website. There's an application portal. They obviously contact a few registered contractors who can do cavity wall or attic insulation. We'd always say, get 3 quotes, get a sense of what the cost is. If they're happy to go with a registered contractor, which they'll find a list of them on our website, they just fill in the application form online and include the contractor's details and so forth. It's fairly intuitive. Press enter, then there's an automatic letter of offer issued, and then you can start work, and you need to have the work done it's 8 months after you get the letter of offer in hand.
Obviously, as always, using a registered contractor,
of course,
one-stop shop, whatever your grant applies to.
Exactly.
Ferg, how have you found a reaction? Your phone hasn't stopped ringing, I'd say, with questions and different.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the main questions in a few minutes. That's a whole subject on its own. The individual window and door grants.
Yeah, that's the most controversial one. I suppose if we name that out now, what it is, you know, so
the windows and doors.
The windows and doors grant has come in. Now, I think we'll talk about that in a second, because it is certainly something that people, it's well worth a proper look into that, because I think, you know, there's definitely a little bit of misinformation and a little misunderstanding out there on that one. So I think now's the time to clarify all that type of stuff. But in general, I'd say, you know, your platforms have been hopping, your phone's been hopping with excitement, with questions, with God knows what.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, the attic and cavity wall grants, if you're lucky enough to have a cavity wall, I would be advising anyone to go ahead and do that work anyway.
That's the bead fill.
That's pumping your walls, and getting your attic done. But I mean, it's just the costs. I know Stephen is saying it's 80%. In a lot of cases, it's even more. It's getting close to free upgrades. It's like the grants are very strong now. 2,000 for a detached house. You know,
for attic insulation.
Sorry, yeah. And you have 1,800 for cavity wall for a detached. So a 3.8. I mean, you might be paying a couple of €100 with that. You do have to get a Postworks BER, and there's €50 of a grant towards that. But that's kind of the range you're in now. So that's very low hanging fruit. I'd advise anyone, if they don't have that done. And we will talk later about windows and doors. There's a kind of a knock-on effect to your attic and walls that affect your windows and doors. But we'll talk about all that later. But in general, the census from homeowners ringing in is obviously grants going up is great news. But the reason I would say we're sitting here today is to kind of clarify exactly those questions that pop up from changes. And there's an awful lot of questions about each and every one of these changes. You'd be surprised the amount of questions that one change makes, and what if this and what if that. So we'll go through all that. We'll try our best to clarify all that.
It's important to get the balance right as well. Like, we're seeing it and you're seeing it every day of the week. But a lot of these people, they're only thinking about energy upgrading now, and they're trying to get their head around the terminology and the approach and kind of what's cavity wall, how is it different to dry lining. So getting this clarification out there is so important, because it could be that information that gets them to make that step. Like, I'm still amazed today that there's people that don't have 300 mil in their attic.
Yes.
And if they have a cavity wall, that it's not pumped, given the savings you make.
I think it's worth actually literally speaking about that for a couple of seconds. I don't think people really understand the difference that makes to your home.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, heat rises. First place is going to go out is out through your attic. If you don't have a full 300 mil insulation in your attic at this stage, with the grant now that we're talking about here, it's crazy. The next place is going to go out through is the walls. Obviously, there's lots of different types of construction. So what we're talking about here is, you know, pumping the walls. You're getting €1,800 worth of a grant. So if it's a detached house, you're getting 2,000 and 1,800, as Ferg is saying. It's getting very close to cost neutral, but you're immediately saving on your bills. You're immediately, you know, it's an investment into your home. So I think it's very important to say that to people as well. People obviously seem to think because there's a grant, there's a catch, and this is literally your best opportunity to upgrade your home at very, very low cost, and the comfort that you're going to get, let alone the energy savings, is phenomenal.
Yeah, it is. And if you sit in a house where the temperature is just steady, you're not really thinking about it, you kind of then you take it for granted. But if you sit in a house that's colder, you realise that, geez, I want to get home. It's a bit more comfortable and steady. And I always think you're regularly saying it, even when we're at those sessions, Pete, where we say if there's a 2K grant there, you'd have to earn 3K. In your job or your wages to be able to pay out 2K to upgrade your house. So
I very rarely, if ever, get free money from the government. In fact, they like to take it off me. So when I get the opportunity, and you're dead right, if I'm going to spend €2,000, I have to earn €4,000 to get it in there.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? With tax and with everything else.
And you're definitely on the higher tax rate.
Well, I am, and I don't mind saying it. There's no point in me working as much as I do without being on the...
When you see the deductions, they say, hold on.
It's ridiculous. Like, you know, it's demotivational, to be totally honest with you. That's a whole other podcast. But the reality of it is, if you're able to do this to your home, you know what I mean, through a grant, and get it to what we're talking about, even if you were to take those two measures alone, the amount of houses that I work in through the TV show and through just generally working. You get up into the attic and sometimes there's nothing. Like nothing in the attic. I'm going, is this for real? Like, you're like, it's like taking a step back in time. It's madness. And again, the last point I'd make on it is as well, I know people will say, and there's this urban myth, oh, well, if you get the grant, then, you know, the person who's fitting it, the registered contractor, is going to charge you more and all that type of stuff. The difference between a good job properly done by an SEAI registered contractor and a guy, like, to be honest with you, anybody can get up into an attic and start rolling insulation out, but do they do it properly? Do they fit it correctly? Do they make it into all of the corners? And there's a lot more to it than that as well, in terms of your attic tank has to be insulated properly, and all of those type of things are done as well through the SEAI grant. It's not just a fella turning up with a load of rolls of insulation in the back of his van and firing them into your attic for you. So I do think that honestly, I think people need to get over that kind of ridiculous thing that the fella down the pub is going to say, sure, that's a joke, the way that, you know, you get a grant, but you don't really because they charge you more. That's not the case. It's not the case. Like, we're inundated, not inundated, we see it all the time, say, where people are getting attic insulation, and the attic insulation is then rolled out to the edges. Then suddenly there's mould in the bedroom underneath, and you kind of say, well, hold on. Then you go up and you say, well, it's not fully out. There's a cold bridge there. Or you've cables, high power cables covered, or you don't have a safe access way to your tanks, or there's not proper ventilation left. And then you're dealing with more kind of serious issues. So, like, the whole thing about getting registered contractors is there's a quality standard to adhere to. We go out and look at 20% of their work. We know what areas for improvement. So it is really important. And sometimes I'd say, well, how come the registered contractor is charging you X and the other guy's doing it for, say, 200 quid cheaper? Why is that? Do you know that type of thing? Are they getting the certs at the end? Are they doing a snag list at the end? All that type of thing. So it's. I would often get people that would contact me and they'd say, "Look, I'm thinking about getting this done, but I'm just not sure if it's going to be done right. Can you recommend someone?" And then, you know, if the conversation goes on a bit further and they say they're going to get a grant, and immediately I'm able to say, if you're going to get a grant and it's an SEAI registered contractor or one-stop shop, it immediately removes the doubt. Because, you know, they don't have to call someone like me to ask was it done correctly. You guys come out and check it anyway. So I do think that that's important to say, and it's certainly something that's what I'd add to people that. Need to get over the whole thing of it's not what it seems to be. It's and there's consequences if things aren't done right, and suddenly rectifying them can be more expensive than the actual job itself. But I would encourage people, like, there's a lot of supply there in terms of contractors to do the work. Get 2 or 3 quotes. Get a sense. Do you know what this is about right? All of them are coming in around 1,800. So I'm going to go with the guy I feel most comfortable with. But if you've 2 guys on 1,800 and the other guy's on 3,000, it was time well done, because that guy is inflating something. So the power's in your hands as well. Type of things. So look at the market, get a sense of what they're offering, get a sense of what they're quoting, and go from there. But again, you can have the confidence if they are registered that you're going to be meeting somebody who is, you know, accredited and who's legitimate. You know, that's it. And then just the financial side, like we're continuously checking insurances, tax clearance certificates, doing 20% inspections, so they're continuously keeping their standards at a high level. So there's all that assurance. The inspections do happen. I can testify for it. They genuinely do happen. Ferg? They definitely do happen. I can testify as well. So will we move on to the discussion point, most talked about. So look, let's be totally honest, since the grants have come out, the big one that caught everybody's eye and the questions that most people are asking about is the windows and doors grant. Like to date, as you know, via the one-stop shop delivery, windows and doors were only delivered via one-stop shops and so on, and they were part of a larger complete retrofit, because in that instance you had the likes of Ferg and the team just advising people in the right way and how to spend their money. But what we've done now in terms of the new grants that were kind of launched, what we said was, you know, they're available as a standalone measure via the Better Energy Homes now. And so homeowners can apply online for windows and door grants via the Better Energy Homes portal, like they would for attic or cavity wall insulation, and do it on a phased basis. So what we've done is we've opened up, like you could get a registered cavity wall installer. We're looking for registered window and door installers now. So our registration process opened up on Tuesday, just gone, the 2nd. So currently we have suppliers and distributors around the country who are registering to become SEAI window and door installers. So we're going through their credentials. We're looking at the CE markings.
their insurances, the tax clearance certificates. We're doing on site. We're doing webinars online, so that they're aware of our standards and requirements and the whole SEAI process and procedures. So come the 3rd of March, then homeowners can apply for window and door grants through the individual Better Energy Home grant route. And it's not really open, kind of wildly open that anyone can get this grant. What we do is it's at the end of a phase where they've looked at their attic and they've looked at their walls. And then from an insulation perspective, they're in good or very good condition. Okay, so they have a good U value on their attic, so the heat isn't escaping up through the roof and out, or the heat isn't wildly escaping through the walls. They've done that work on their attic and their walls, and then they'll become eligible for the window and door grant on the basis that they've single or double glazed windows, that their home was constructed pre-2011, and then when they look on the BER advisory report, which there's thousands, hundreds and thousands of people that have BERs and advisory reports, and they'll see on the report that their attic insulation has that term good or very good on their advisory report, and their walls have a term good or very good on their advisory report, and then they'll be eligible to apply for the window and door.
Say that again. So where is this report?
The advisory report. So if they've got a BER assessment completed on their home previously, a part of the BER assessment is that there's kind of a simplified BER advisory report, and it's colour coded, and it's there's descriptors per element. So you have your roof, you have your walls, you have your windows, and if your roof is at good or very good in terms of a standard, and your walls is at good or very good as a standard, you become eligible for the window and door grant, and so on. So it's not a case where your G's, your F's and your E's can run straight out and get the window and door grant without anything else. Yeah. You've gone through that process where we said, you know what, your roof is in good condition, your walls are in good condition. The next step from a fabric perspective is your windows and doors.
And I was just going to say that's the important clarification that if I was to say, why did Minister Darragh O'Brien announce these changes? It's still for homeowners to remember that this is creating a pathway,
correct,
rather than having to do it all together, we'll say. Yeah. So there's options now of being able to do each measure as an individual measure. But the reason that there has to be some restriction on windows is, in fairness, there's not much point in changing your windows if your walls and attic are in poor. Yeah. So, so the questions that have come up, and I suppose the initial questions that have come up are just maybe what you've gone through already, but what is my starting point? Yeah. I suppose this was announced 2 weeks ago. The registration for window suppliers is only open this week, and it's due to be open for applications on the 2nd of March. 2nd of March.
Yeah, 2nd and 3rd of March.
So in the meantime, anyone with a BER certificate, and again, just to make it more confusing, any of them after 2018 will have that colour-coded advisory report. Yeah. Pre-2018 is a different story, Stephen. We're going to have to go a different route.
It is a different story, and it'll take a while to kind of smooth out in terms of your processes and so forth. But I'd ask the people maybe to touch base with the BER assessors who did, and they'll be able to say, well, you know what, that's that U value, that falls into that good or very good category for your attic. That falls into that good or very good category for your walls.
Yeah, so it is fair to say, though, that the starting point for pretty much every grant. Yeah. Obviously we're talking about the windows and doors here, but the every grant is the HEA, the home energy assessment. BER rating is a very good point.
It's a very good indicator. I'd always kind of
You're also going to need it later on anyway.
You will, because afterwards,
when you're making your full application,
when you're making your full application and you're looking for your grant payment, you need to have a postworks BER completed. Exactly.
So I think, for me, just being totally honest, I think that should be clearer. I think it should be, look, you'd need to get this done at the start. Yeah. It absolutely helps you make the correct decisions. Yeah. It gives you, and it gives you in a simplistic form, like you were even saying, it says good or very good. Yeah. You can't make it any simpler than that. Yeah. And also will tell you, less if it's less. But it breaks it down. I was able to sit down with my wife, and the two of us were able to look at it together, and she was able to understand it much better than I was able to ever explain it to her. Yeah. So that to me was very good. But I think it's important that everyone knows that you pretty much have to start with that. You're better off getting that done very early in the process and making that connection, because you're going to need to go back to that person to get your post BER certificate as well.
At the end, yeah.
So again, to try and simplify that or summarise it, it's you need to get a home energy. You don't need to, but you're advised to get a home energy assessment done, which then gives you your roadmap that you then can decide which grants you want to go for or which route you want to take, and then that same person or another person can help you then later on, because when you are making your application for your grant, you do need to have your post works be or
correct, and even it's not even the home energy assessment is a great package of information to make decisions, but it's even just that BR assessment side of it. So you can contact one of our BR assessors on our system all over the country, and they can come out and they'll guide you on the best way forward. In terms of they're the ones to say, why are you spending all your money in this element if 10% of your energy just goes out, and I've gone up to your attic and there's nothing in the attic. And so on. So it's so important people understand where they're losing their energy from their house and what's costing them money.
And the other thing to clarify again is that you can do all three of these together. It's not. It's. I suppose what we're looking at is the result after works, not before works. Correct, so there's a bit of. But what I would say is that if we're going to go down the route of good, very good attic and walls, then you're eligible for the grants. That's very understandable for everyone, and we can, because there has been an awful lot of talk about HLIs, heat loss indicators, being below certain numbers. But I think if we stick to good, very good, even I can follow that.
I know. It's important because people will freeze and they won't know. And I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. We're trying to create a pathway for homeowners because they don't have all these tens of thousands, and they say, like myself or even yourself, you say, well, I'll spend 2,000 this year, I'll move and do something else next year, and then 5 years' time I'll get the solar PV and that'll be me done. If they have a clear pathway, they can kind of focus their mind a bit, and they'll say, well, do you know what? I've got my BR advisory, my walls say they're fair, my roof says they're fair, my windows and doors says they're fair. Do you know what? I'm going to do those 3 first time round, so they'll go up to very good. And then your heat pump ready. So then in 3 years' time you can transition to a heat pump. And then, so it's creating a pathway so people know where to go. And you can get all that information from our BR assessors, our retrofit providers and so forth through the home energy assessment as well. So it's just giving the people information and keeping it simple for them to understand what way to proceed.
Like again, I think Ferg made a very good point there as well, that you can get them all done together. So if you're a couple and you've bought a second-hand home and you know that it's got a low BR rating, you can actually make your judgment on buying the house, because you know you can say to yourself, right, look, we know we're going to have to put some money into this house, but we also know that we're going to be eligible for each one of these grants. Correct, and they can make a decision based off that. And then obviously there's the one-stop shop option is there for private homeowners as well.
It's a good segue into the first-time buyers increased attic insulation grant.
Well, she explained that there as well.
So the first-time buyers, if you purchase a house after the 1st of January 2025, and you need to do energy efficiency works, there's that extra help there. So we kind of give 100%, the median 100% cost. So we've increased the grant for attic insulation even more to help people. To help people kind of in that time where they're trying to upgrade so much, from a first-time buyer's perspective of a second-hand home. So that can be done through the Better Energy Homes system as well. So you go onto the portal and you tick first-time buyer, and that extra grant is added on as well. So it kind of helps them out in that space also,
Good start getting the attic done. Good start.
Yeah. It's a great start, but I think your point on the one-stop shop as well, like there's a lot of talk about individual measures now. But the one-stop shop is still there for people who wants to do a complete home energy upgrade in one go. And the one-stop shop brings a lot of quality and experience to the party in terms of their project managing the job. And there's a grant support for that. Because a lot of people who do this, they're holding down full-time jobs. They're not involved in the industry. They don't know how to coordinate projects. They don't know tried and tested contractors and so forth. You also get an opportunity for floor insulation, which is so important. 20% of your heat is lost out through the floor. You can grant aid for underfloor heating. But something that's very important, mechanical ventilation. So when you're putting a wrap around your house, you're putting 300 mil of insulation in the attic, you're installing new windows and doors, your house is becoming more airtight, which is excellent. But you need to make sure then you're getting purposeful ventilation and air into the house. So there's a great grant for mechanical extract ventilation and airtightness as well via the one-stop shop route and so on. So there still is that extra grant support and expertise there through the one-stop shop service, which is an excellent service delivered through 29 parties now, and so on. So it's just giving people options based on their budget, where they're at. I see someone who bought a second-hand house, and through the sale of another house, they might have 120k.
Yeah.
I think they're well-minded to go and look for a one-stop shop, because they can do a whole project before they move in. And the one-stop shop will have the speed, the coordination and the experience to do everything in one go. Whereas if people are in a house and they have a limited budget, I'd be still kind of thinking, well, maybe the Better Energy Homes individual route for yourself, and do that pathway over 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, but the one-stop shop as well gives people, so the question I always get asked is, can I recommend somebody and, another builder? And I'm going to be honest, it's very difficult to do that. Because I can't monitor what their experience is going to be until maybe I meet that person in 6 months' time again or something like that. But also, it's just so difficult to get people these days. So, like, there are, one-stop shops out there that will, as you said, project manage, which I think is huge for an awful lot of people. So I think people underestimate the level of experience that's needed and the level of contacts and network you need to be able to project manage. But then the timing, the sequencing is massive.
It's massive.
If anyone's ever done a self-build, or if anyone's ever tried to do work on their own home who's not really in the industry, it's so difficult to get people lined up. Like, I'll be honest with you, if I rang my contractor and I said, listen, I need you in 2 weeks' time, and if he said to me, oh, well, I'm helping some self-build person out, I was saying, listen, let me tell you honest with you, I give you work every month, every week, every whatever, you're coming to me, and he's going to say, yeah, of course I am. So what happens then is that person gets pushed down the line. That's just the God's honest truth of it. Whereas,
it's demand.
If it's a one-stop shop who's looking after that, they have the power that I just had. So I think that it gives people great comfort, and it's like what I said earlier. That the work is going to be checked, and it has to be done to a certain level. It has to meet certain regulations for the grants and for the checks that they are going to be done.
And I don't want to get too deep into it, but and you probably know from the building space, it's that connection between where your attic insulation finishes and where your window should go up against.
Absolutely.
If you've individual people going in doing those two things, there's a breakdown of information. But if you've the one guy over those two things, there's no, your insulation needs to stop here because the window's coming in here.
Yeah.
It's all those, the flashings, all that detail. With the one-stop shop, it's kind of all brought into one design package. Yeah. And everything's considered at the same time.
Do you mind if we go back to the windows and doors
100%,
again?
yeah.
Because I know we did speak about it, but I think there's a bit more to it as well.
100%, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's loads more to it, but I think the pathway, let's break that down a bit more. What does that actually mean? So it basically means, yes, you are going to be eligible to get a grant to upgrade your doors and your windows, but your home has to be, as you said earlier on, to meet a certain criteria.
Correct. So your roof needs to be good or very good on your BR advisory, or your walls need to be good or very good on your BR advisory.
So to simplify that, if someone's sitting at home and they're in a house that at this moment in time is very energy inefficient in terms of their attic insulation is not in a good situation and their walls are not in a good situation, they are not going to be able to just go, oh, that's great, now I'm getting a grant, I want to change the windows because they're dated. Yeah. So they need to take the other steps first
to find out. Now,
that's a very simplistic version of what has to happen.
Well, it's a good point, because you have to try and break it down. So if a homeowner has got an SEAI grant for their attic and their walls, I'd say they're in a good place, because on their advisory, their attic and walls would be good or very good. Yeah. If their home was built between 2000 and 2011, more than likely their advisory report will say good or very good in both their attic and their walls as well. It's when you move into your 1980s or 1990s home, then you kind of have to say, oh, hold on a minute, were these walls grant dated, were these upgraded before? Yeah. Or you may have to look at one of the fabric measures along with the windows. So it's people understanding those kind of little indicators, and so on.
And I suppose we've only talked about cavity wall installation up till now.
Yeah.
But obviously half of Dublin is built out of hollow block.
Hollow block, yeah.
But to get your walls good on hollow block on that advisory report, you're looking at external or internal insulation, which is a bit more costly. So it's just important to mention that.
It's important to mention,
that there may be an expense before you're eligible for the window grants.
Yeah, but again, it's absolutely an expense. But have you ever been, we all have been in a house before external wall insulation goes on, and then you're in the house after the external wall insulation goes on, and obviously, you know,
it's a great job.
It's actually really hard to describe the difference. Like, it's a phenomenal difference.
Yeah.
Like, you instantly can feel the warmth, the change in the whole feel of the whole of the house. The whole environment is completely different. So
it even gives the house an uplift in terms of the look of it,
well, of course, yeah. Because
aesthetically, people, I mean, look, but I would still say it's the best of all the installations.
It is.
It's giving you.
I know people that have got it, and I kind of go in and say,
your best U value, but I have it myself, and I have to say, I agree with you. Huge difference.
I like the fact you can see it on the wall.
Yeah.
And you can go to the case and say, there's a good bit of
insulation. Do you not trust cavity wall insulation?
I do, but I have to see it and feel it. I have
hard to see behind the walls. I like what I did there.
That was the link.
but genuinely, like, it's a superb job. It really is, and it's
there's less interruptions, isn't there? Because it's outside and so on. With dry lining, you've kitchen units.
Dry lining, internal dry lining is extremely intrusive. It's just as simple as that. You're losing a very small amount of the square footage of your room, obviously, but it's the intrusion that's in it.
You have to move every rad pipe. You have to move it can.
Everything has to be brought through the front door and into the house, up into the room.
Integrated
wet trades are in.
Bringing in wet trades.
You do your reveals. Like, it is very intrusive. It's as simple as that. And then you've got your challenges of your stairs, your bathrooms, all your internal finishes that have to be redone. So the external wall installation it's probably the least intrusive. Obviously, pump on the walls is very good as well. But, you know, if you are able to commit to the period of time of getting the external wall installation done, it's done and dusted, and you don't have to change the inside of your house at all. Like, you know,
if you're lucky enough to have cavity walls, that's obviously your
cavity block.
Cavity walls. If you're lucky enough to have cavity walls, that's the solution.
Yes.
Like, people often ask me, what's the first thing you'd say, or what's the most important thing you'd say to people that's relatively cost effective? I says, make sure you've 300 mil in the attic, and if you have a cavity wall, make sure it's pumped.
Yeah.
Easy wins.
Easy wins. And all that cost could be covered via the grant in a lot of cases, or you're only paying 20% of the cost, which is huge.
But it's just that, to make sure that we're clarifying, and these are the questions that are coming up, but that's what makes you eligible for the window and door grants. Correct. Because everyone is talking about the window and door grants, but I suppose it's not a free-for-all as...
No. Like, the last thing we want is people in with a BR rating of G, F and E, and there's a lot of them around the country spending their savings on putting in new windows and doors. That's not money well spent.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've tried to control that via the eligibility criteria, saying we're only focusing on single and double glazed windows, pre-11, but also homes that have that good or very good category on their walls and their attic from the BR advisory.
Yeah, and look... We're all, you know, talking very sensibly here and all the rest of it, and you know, it is very
not
hard.
Like an hour ago.
But it is hard when you're at home and you're talking about spending money that you can't really see.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't see the attic insulation, but you can feel it. You can see your external wall insulation if you do, but you can't see the pumped insulation, but you can feel it. Yeah. You know, so, and then I suppose that's why, you know, the idea of the windows and doors is a kind of a, like, you know, it's a shiny option that's there for people. But, like, again, I think it's fair to say then that if someone does commit to getting their attic and their walls done, you know, it does mean that a heat pump is a very viable option then at that stage as well, because they've increased everything. So it's the step by step, it's the pathway thing that's being talked about, and doing it in the right way. Because again, you know, having, you know, been asked loads of these questions at the different events and the different things like that, people, you know, there's always again that urban myth, those heat pumps things, that, you know, they don't work in my house, they can't work in this house or that. You know, the reality of it is, if the house is you know, well insulated, it is going to work, and it's a phenomenal option. You know, it's an investment, and is it more expensive than changing out a fossil fuel boiler? Yes, it is, but it's an investment, and the grants are there to help you as well. And
we're trying to entice people along that pathway where they look at the fabric, and then their next step is to move to renewable technology such as heat pumps, and then help them that bit more with the 12.5K grant, which is a serious contribution before the supply and fit of the new heat pump. So it's bringing them along that pathway, trying to get them to spend their money in the right places at the start.
Absolutely.
And I always refer back to a chap I met at the Ideal Homes a few years ago who spent 10, 12K on solar PV. Yeah. And as the conversation evolved, I says, well, what do you have in terms of your wall insulation? Oh, no, I haven't done anything. So I says, your heating system is chugging away probably at 70%. Your bills are the same. Now you might be offsetting a bit of electricity, but most of your energy bills is heating your house, heating your hot water, and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's trying to avoid that situation. I says, if you put your 10K with an 8K external wall insulation grant, that would have been money better spent in a better place.
Yeah.
The solar PV, and I think you guys think the same, it's the cherry on the top.
Yeah, it's a super option.
It's a super option.
I've actually just recently got it done. I put in a very good system, but I waited until I got my heat pump on before. No, I did. But I built my house in 2007, and I built it to above the building regulations at the time, and I've slowly added to it. Because the building regulations took a big jump, after that. So my house would have been, it had I think it was a BR rating of C before I started doing the upgrade works, and I'm after getting it to A1.
Place.
Yeah. Well, so I'm after getting to A2, which, but I didn't do it in one jump. I was able to do it in slow pieces. Yeah, and then I just literally got the solar, and then that'll be it now. I won't be doing anything else for a while, but I just literally got the solar in, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to benefit me.
Yeah.
But I did do it, methodically, you know what I mean? I was very, very tempted to spend money elsewhere, but I did want to take advantage of the grants, and I did want to basically layer the investment that I'd already done,
It's great, and you even doing it, Pete, and you in the trade, you kind of say to yourself, what does this actually mean? How do I do this? How do I coordinate that? It's difficult for people who aren't doing this every day. They're like, not everyone's a heat engineer involved in these measures, and they're trying to make these serious decisions. We see it all the time when we're on stands at the Ideal Homes, the Energy Show, the Self-Build, and they just... I think it's great. There's more and more people talking about it. They're coming so clued in.
Yeah.
And hopefully now these extra grants will move them. Like last year, 58,000 people availed of our grants.
Yeah, serious number.
It's huge. Like.
So here's a question. Did I read this correctly?
Yeah.
Is there an option for someone who's already had a grant to go again? Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. That only for there's a second wall insulation grant allowed.
So explain that a bit more.
So basically, if you got cavity wall insulation previously via the Better Energy Homes, or internal wall insulation previously via the Better Energy Homes, you're able to get external wall or dry lining via second grant.
Okay.
The only time you can't get a second wall grant via Better Energy Homes is if you got an external wall insulation grant.
Okay.
Okay. So say for example you've pumped your walls back in 2015, and you said, you know what, I have a bit of money, I want to make my home even more comfortable.
Yeah.
You can go in for a dry lining or an external wall insulation grant.
So you're doubling your...
You're doubling up. You're making your house that bit more efficient.
Yeah.
But say if you got an external wall insulation grant in 2015, you can't go for a second wall.
Okay.
So that has been brought in, because there's a lot of people that just want to go that bit further.
Yeah.
But
it's not for attic insulation, so if you got attic, no.
It's
only
just
the
solely for the wall insulation and so on. We've also introduced that extra support for people who are kind of in that energy poor category. So if you know of the warmer homes, there's 7 social welfare kind of eligibility criteria, and you'll find them on our website. So if they have cavity walls and external wall insulation, cavity walls and attic insulation at their home, they can apply via the Better Energy Homes, and they'll get that 100% median cost grant. So it'll be a bit more of a help. And if they have a warmer homes application in process, they'll still stay on the list. It just means when the warmer homes contractor goes out, and they don't have to do the attic or the wall insulation or the cavity wall insulation, because it's already done.
Okay.
So that's kind of another... It's another incentive. It's another grant that has been brought in just to try and help those people on energy poor who are kind of waiting for the warmer homes.
People are on certain assistances.
Exactly, social welfare.
Social welfare, yeah.
Exactly.
So they can go on again onto the SEAI website. They can check and see.
And they'll tick that. I'm in receipt of certain social welfare supports.
Yeah. And
then they'll be eligible for that higher median cost grant of 100%.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times it'll cover. They may have to pay the balance of 5-6%, say if it's in a big house, but we'd hope in the majority of cases it would cover 100% of the cost.
And there's no repercussions outside of that either, because it's not a way of checking in on someone to see if they're able to do this or anything. It's the house that's really getting the grant.
Oh, 100%, yeah. But it's the homeowner's position in terms of their social welfare, their kind of current position at the minute, and so on.
You just jump in there.
Right, so anyone that is eligible for the warmer homes is eligible for that increased
Yeah,
Grand.
so if they go on the website, they'll see if they go on the Warmer Homes website, they'll see the social welfare criteria that we look at, such as the fuel allowance, domiciliary care allowance, the carers allowance, and so forth. So there's 7 of them listed there. If they qualify for them and they don't want to wait for the Warmer Homes contractor to come around, they can go on to the Better Energy Homes portal online at SEAI.ie, and they can tick that button on the portal, and they'll be assigned the higher grant amount to cover 100% of the median cost. And they can get that work done, and then when the warmer home contractor comes, they'll do the balance and so on. So it's just that bit of extra support.
I really like this one.
Yeah,
I think there's an awful lot of low hanging fruit that can be achieved there. I mean, 2,500 for the grant for a detached.
Yeah.
2,300 for cavity wall installation, and 280 for the BER assessment, which is very good. I mean,
like you as a contractor would know that covers a lot in terms of the installation.
That's for free.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's always a house going to be 5,000 for the attic installation.
So say that one again.
Just size wise. So if you're eligible for this, so the whole idea, I suppose, is that there's a list, a long waiting list for warmer homes, and what they're essentially trying to do is take away attic and cavity wall works by having contractors do them. Now, important to emphasise again that it doesn't affect their placing on the list.
Definitely not.
They can get this done, and it's done as soon as they want. But
plus, it
doesn't affect it doesn't change anything.
Because people will be worried, will this affect my list, my place on the list? But it also means that they've 12 months with an insulated attic and insulated walls, type of thing, with that 100% median funding. So it's kind of a proactive way. And then when the warmer homes contractor comes around, maybe in 8 months' time, it means there's less to do.
So they're doing it technically through the
Better
individual
Energy
Homes
groupings,
but then it doesn't affect our overall warmer homes. Okay.
But I like that one.
It's a good one, and sometimes you'd be thinking, "Oh God, geez, that was a good one to think of," because it kind of alleviates some pressure on the waiting time, plus it puts people out to the whole contractor market as well.
Yeah, I suppose, and like listening to homeowners, 2-year waiting list is always mentioned. And
we're working hard on that. Like there was 8,000 of them installed last year,
and I do think that this will reduce it even further because you can do the easy jobs, we'll call them, and have them out of the way, and then when the warmer home contractor arrives, he hasn't the amount of work to do.
Correct. And there's a good point that when I hear the stat last week, I was saying, oh God, that means a lot. Like in 2018, the average cost to do a warmer homes house was 2,700. Last year, 2025, it was 29,000.
Wow.
So the depth of these installs, they're getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
So gone are the days where warm homes contractors are going out just pumping walls and attic and stuff on. They're looking at the windows, they're looking at the heating system, they're doing a whole approach. And it's a great, if you go into a house that has been received full warmer home upgrade, it transfers to life for the residents and even the look of the building, the house.
And that enhanced grant for the warmer homes eligible, that's available from March as well.
Yeah.
And the first time buyers attic is available from March.
I think it's the 2nd of March.
That's 2,300 for that one. But again, a good start for
it's just I think that month is needed, say, for the window and doors, because we want to get the distributors and the manufacturers, the contractors registered and geared up, and then when the demand comes in the 2nd of March, they're there. And so on, because I remember when the one-stop shop was announced and everything was announced at the same time, we had a lot of homeowners looking for that one-stop shop service, which was great. Then we were trying to register the one-stop shops, so there was a bit of learning brought in here. So we get the suppliers in place, and then the people are waiting, and then they come in.
But I do think it's fair to say that there's very few windows and door companies out there that are building inferior doors at this moment in time, because they just won't sell. They won't meet the current building regulations. They won't, I'm sure there's ways and means of doing something and slightly cheaper than a fully thermally broken window frame and stuff like that. But the reality of it is, even to buy inferior materials is probably difficult to do now. So, because even when I'm finishing a standard project without any grants involved, I have to do handover files, and these days I have to hand over all the data sheets for everything, because they all get submitted for BCAR and for different things. So I look on you obviously are going to do all your due diligence in the SEAI, and you're going to make sure that all the contractors meet all the different criteria, and I'm sure there's lots of them. But I think it's fair to say that you're not looking for a couple of sporadic people. I think there's going to be a lot of product available for people, a lot of options available for people through the current windows and door providers, because they've no choice but to be at the the level
100%. So we'll have to get control of this. The registration requirements are in place in the web. You can go in and register now and start through the process. I had a look on the website last night, and it was there. They're looking for CE marking. These products have to be tested to particular standards. Warranties need to be in place. These companies need to have their insurances in place. They need to have their tax compliance and so forth. They need to sit through webinars. They'll be inspected. So it's not anyone will have the appetite. So but all it is just driving quality. And building an informed supply chain with good people have good customer service.
And customer service is a big thing,
huge,
because unfortunately that can be the problem when it comes to windows and doors. It's great product, the fit is grand, and then it's the after sale service that I find can be tricky, and it's something that you guys would want to watch.
Of course, and I've heard it. I've all last week. I have installers who are very conscientious about their work, and they say you can pump walls, you can wrap walls, you can put 300 mil in the attic, but if you have a badly fitted window with too much mastic, with too much filler pieces on the side, and you've your heat and your airtightness is immediately affected, and you're losing your heat. So it's something that we'll be looking for top quality installers, and we'll be doing our webinars, and we'll be keeping close checking at post works.
Will you be fitting airtightness membranes or airtightness tapes around the windows as they're being fitted?
Well, obviously through the Better Energy Homes route, people can do that, but that's grant aided. I'd always recommend that, but that's grant aided via the one-stop shop approach, and so forth. So the whole house energy upgrade. So that's the beauty of having a one-stop shop. They will kind of look at it as a whole, and they'll say, do you know what? We've installed these really tightly fitted windows. We'll make sure there's air tightness around the reveals onto the frame, and do you know what? We've actually removed unintended infiltration that you've been getting, keeping your house kind of healthy and good flow of air through. That's gone now, but you know what? We've installed a purposeful mechanical ventilation system. So that's the beauty about going to the one-stop shops. You can offer this whole designed package, because it means you're setting yourself up for a highly efficient home that's kind of a healthy environment to live in.
I would find that window installers are much better. Even without membranes, they fit windows a lot better. I remember the old school was the guy measuring would allow 20 mil, and the lad in the factory allowed another 20 mil. They nearly fall through the open. And then use the old foam.
Get that foam.
Just we spoke a lot about the eligibility of homeowners to apply for the window and doors. Just to say that the windows also have to be eligible themselves, so they have to have a U value of 1.4 or below. And all that certification has to be provided.
Windows?
No, your replacement windows. Now again, I don't know why you'd stop at 1.4, but anyway,
that's just.
But that's the limit.
1.4 or below. Most of the windows we're actually seeing through the one-stop shop program has been granted in window installations, supplying fits for since 22. They're lower than 1.4. I think most of them are around the 1 or slightly lower than that.
Well, we're heading to 0.6, 0.7 now.
I think it's great.
But I think it's important to say that the lower you are than that, the more positive it is as well.
The lower you are, the better the U value.
The lower the U value, the better it is in terms of.
Anyway, just to add that in.
That's an important point, and the starting point is you need to have single or double glazed windows to be eligible. So if you already have triple glazed windows installed, you're already there when it comes to your windows.
House has to be pre-2011.
Pre-2011, and then you're looking at your BR advisory. You're getting a sense of your year of construction, and so forth. And all these are done in a kind of a pathway. We talk about pathways a lot, and come May, it's actually the term we should be using is the building renovation passport. So with every house there'll be a passport, and the homeowner will know and it'll move with it'll stay with the house regarding if new
the
people
house is
move
sold,
in.
yeah.
So they'll know in a particular date.
So that's coming in now, is it?
That's coming in at the end, towards the end of May
And
this year.
Is that going to be compulsory? Are people going to have a house passport?
It has. You have to be able to supply it if someone asks for it.
Okay.
It's not mandatory. So I can see it running alongside the HEA.
Yeah.
The HEA is probably something similar.
Yeah.
But I can see as the months unfold and the teething problems kind of iron themselves out, and the building renovation passport will become more predominant and people start using it and benefiting from it.
Yeah.
Because we see a lot of cases, and you probably see it as well. You could be at a house and they'd say to you, "Oh, I moved into this house 7 years ago, but I don't know if they ever got a grant. Or I don't know what value but the building renovation passport will record all this.
Very good, yeah.
It's true, yeah.
It'll give people a route
Yeah.
to get their house to an A-rated house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it's a building energy passport.
Yeah.
So it's focused on the energy side.
Yeah,
of it.
building retrofit passport.
Yeah.
So it's coming in. It's a directive from Europe, and we have to have a methodology. We have to have a way of generating this and providing it to homeowners if they request it after the end of May.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because I do get asked to do work on homes, and people say, "Do we really need an engineer? Do we really need an architect?" And there are times, obviously, there's certain limits that you can go to, like a 40 square metre extension without planning permission and stuff like that. But I would always say, you need to get an engineer's report at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Because what's the point in investing in your home, doing an upgrade works, whether it's an extension or the energy upgrade works, without having a certification to follow it? Because life is life, and you may think that you're forever home, but 5 years' time you may have to move. And if you're trying to sell your house without any certification for your upgrade works that you've done, or your structural works that you've done to the home, it's ridiculous, because it actually causes more problems trying to sell the house. So people come in, they look at the house and they say, "God, it looks great. We love the open plan section at the back. Can you show us any of the certs that you got?" And if the person doesn't ask for it, the solicitor definitely will. And if you can't provide them, it's a lot of times, it delays the sales, or can, So
of course.
If you're invested in your home, make sure you've got the piece of paper to prove that you've done it correctly, and you're able to pass that on. And the passport, the energy passport, is a good idea.
Yeah, even we're talking about BR assessors coming out doing accurate BR assessments.
Yeah.
If you can show a BR assessor this documentation linked to the different materials, it kind of makes the world a difference in terms of your BR assessment and your A to G rating as well. It's so important.
Yeah.
But you understand that because you've been through the pain as a builder.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people, it's like it's thrown in that drawer and suddenly the drawer gets emptied out and, geez, I don't know where it is.
Yeah, but look, obviously, technology has moved on now, so it's a file. It's usually a zip file that I like, so a handover file I do, health and safety handover file, and I'd also then, as built drawings would be put in, and this is in any kind of half decent sized project that we would be doing now, when there will be data sheets then for windows and doors. There'll be data sheets for a certain insulation, and again, it does go to certain levels. And as a builder, you're kind of going, Jesus, when will this ever end?
I know.
But I think we've all come to accept it now as actually a positive thing. And when you have the systems in place, and now it used to be a struggle when I was ringing up, going to the window crowd or to whoever, going, "Look, will you send us on the data sheet for that?" "Oh, jeez, I'll do it." Now they just go boom straight back to you, because they're
so
constantly
slick.
asked for this.
Yeah.
So they have the information there very quickly, and it's a very simple thing of recording those files and then just sending a handover at the end. So I think like a lot of that information is actually there. So I think the industry has kind of caught up with where it needs to be as well, from a technological point of view as well.
It needs to. You're dead right.
Well, I do always talk about the evolution of construction in terms of, look at our tools that we have now in comparison to tools we had previously. Look at the understanding of materials. Do you know what I mean? Like
innovation, will play. Like we'd always say in SEAI, what got us to where we are now in 2026 won't get us to where we need to be in 2030.
Yeah.
Like we need to have better technology.
Sorry, I'm just thinking of a Yankee screwdriver. Do you remember the Yankee screwdriver?
Yeah.
Before power tools, the Yankee screwdriver was the greatest invention of all time. I thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. I remember when
it was better than that. But I mean, imagine a Yankee screwdriver was the thrill.
But 30 years ago, even insulation was nearly a luxury. It was certainly something that people were aware of, but they were much more aware of wanting to put their fancy kitchen in than they're putting insulation in their walls.
Only
so
Henry Sheen was putting it in 30 years ago.
That's right. Yeah. But genuinely, it's a very important part of the process now. People do understand it a bit more.
And your point about compiling certs and everything, there'll be a digital platform where a lot of those certs will be recorded as well. So it won't be reliant on the homeowner. That'll be there as well. So with the building renovation passport, it'll kind of create the pathway people need, and also it'll provide a repository of certs and data that people can kind of make decisions on.
Now
we're touching over an hour, Ferg. So what questions
this
do we
is
need to ask
the longest podcast we've done so far.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I just wanted to ask one question. Back to windows and doors again, because this is where it all started. But one question that came up is, I replaced the windows in the back of my house a few years ago. Can I get the grant to replace the windows in the front? Short, sweet answer, but...
So did they get a grant a few years ago? No, yeah, they can, yeah, of course. Once the walls are at that condition, it's
that's what it's down to.
and the roof.
And again, just to say that all grants, you can only claim 100% of the grant. So if the attic grant is 2,000, but it only costs 1,800, you can only get 1,800. Just in case you're going to think you're going to pocket that 200, Pete.
That's the risk.
I know what you're thinking.
That's what
But
the
you
risk
can't
when
do
the
that.
grants get so high.
Never even entered my head.
Now listen, I just want to cover one thing before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
And it's
Relax.
a quick
He
explanation.
says nothing for an hour and now.
I know, but it's all coming to me now.
Go for it.
The one-stop shops, there has been a few changes in terms of eligibility for one-stop shops. Go.
Well, come here. We all know the benefit of the one-stop shops, okay? And a lot of the time their unique selling point was the windows and doors element, but they offer so much more in terms of that quality service, that expertise, that all-in-one. And one thing that I never mentioned that I should have mentioned is that via the one-stop shop service with the additional grants for the mechanical ventilation, which is so important when you're wrapping your house and your airtightness and so forth, on average the grant could be 24, 25k, and the one-stop shops are obliged to deduct that up front, which is huge for people when they're entering into a big project like that. So that the one-stop shop is there and the list is growing, and people need to understand the level of scrutiny these one-stop shops went through in terms of showing us the quality management plans, that their continuous professional development, how they train, how they vet their subcontractors, how they have access to subcontractors, how they turn work around really quick at a really good quality. So it really is a premium service in terms of what they're offering. It is kind of lining up on par with the Better Energy Homes individual approach. But we're always looking to see how the scheme develops. We're always looking to see what will the outcome of this be. So time will tell in terms of the approach.
Can I ask a simple question here? So, with the individual grants raising, does that mean that the one-stop shop overall grant has raised as well?
It would
correct?
have, It would have, correct.
Comparatively, it's
comparatively,
risen as well.
But I suppose the big thing in terms of the grants raising is that 6.5k for the heat pump grant under the Better Energy Homes.
Yeah.
Now 12.5 if you bring in the central heating system upgrade and the renewable heat bonus of 4k. So that's the big difference, and obviously the big difference is the windows and doors coming into Better Energy Homes.
Differential, the obvious one is that you have an option now of going individual, which includes windows and doors,
Correct.
which it never did.
Yeah.
And we thought it never would.
But
here we are. Yeah. But so you have an option now of going all in, which was always the one-stop shop.
Yeah.
I mean, people talk about B2s, but I don't think we've done a B2 upgrade.
Yeah, well,
ever.
But
I think they're always
there's actually two things to mention there. Like someone who's on a GF or E rating, like they're not open to the windows and doors grants until they address their walls and the roof. Okay, and also this whole thing about via the one-stop shop, you had to get 100 kilowatt hour uplift. To get that one-stop shop grant. That's been removed on the one-stop shop scheme for people who install heat pumps. Okay. So and what it will help is, and you've seen it a lot. You'd have a lot of people, early adopters, who install solar PV, and they're starting off at a very good BR rating, and they're struggling to get the 100 uplift because they're early adopters. So it brings that those homeowners into your market space as well.
Yeah.
Plus it also focuses on heat pump technology.
Two main changes on the one-stop shop. This is why I asked him 10 minutes ago and he went around the circles there. But
that means I'm doing a good job.
the requirement for the 100 kilowatt hour uplift has been removed.
Correct.
But also the B3, minimum
B3 to
maximum
G
BER has been removed as well. So now if you have a B2, and anyone that I've sent out a HEA with a B2, please get back in contact. You're now back in the game.
Yeah, you're back in
but
the game.
It's great for people.
It opens it up.
So you can come with an A3 now and go to a 1-star.
You can, of course.
You know, because that 100 uplift caused an issue in terms of it was making probably people do works that they didn't need to do.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's actually a very good point. I suppose yourselves and other one-stop shops across the panel, they've probably been talking to so many people over the past 24 months, and the journey has stopped from a one-stop shop perspective because of that. They couldn't get the 100 uplift, or they were better than that B3 to a G. So it's time maybe to re-engage.
Yeah, C1 B3 was always an issue. Always an issue. Yeah, but anyway, it's not there anymore, Pete. We're sorted.
Absolutely. So, any more questions for this man?
Will I go back to Windows?
It is very topical.
I think
it is very topical. The main thing is it's down as a standalone measure, but it's done in a pathway or passport approach. We're trying to get people to be heat pump ready.
Yeah.
So to have a decent bit of fabric, so to have their fabric at a good or very good level, and then they're installing a heat pump. Do you know what I mean? So there's a bit of thought in terms of it's not just a single measure that people can go and install without any thought. They have to look at their advisory report and see, do you know what? My attic is good, my walls are good, now I can move to my windows and doors type of thing. Yeah,
and I think there's plenty of information on the SEAI website. That's probably a starting point.
There is.
Again, contact one-stop shops, contact Better Energy Home Contractors. There's a whole list of SEAI. Contact BER assessors, but contact someone that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Don't go to Facebook for your answers. Don't go to wherever you go, because I'm after looking at so much misinformation over the last 2 and 3 weeks, and you know,
I think the misinformation nearly prompted this session.
It actually
hopefully
did.
It has clarified a number of things in place that people are looking at. But I can't underline go to the SEAI website more because it's really good. They kind of have a graphical display in terms of what you see on a BR advisory, and where you go with your attic, where it needs to be, where your walls need to be. So take a bit of time out to go down through it. There's really good grants there, and it's worthwhile giving it 10-15 minutes or more, and then talk to the registered contractors, the registered one-stop shops, to get their bit of experience and knowledge in terms of how this is done, and go from there.
And if any homeowners have any questions, by all means, send them in. You can contact Pete, and if anyone wants Stephen's personal mobile number,
we'll circulate.
All joking aside, do send in any questions, because I hope this generates questions. I actually hope we covered a lot, but there's always something that we said will cause another question.
Yeah. And all joking aside, Ferg has rebranded himself and on the Instagram anyway
guy.
as the Retro Guy, and genuinely, like, he is definitely a fountain of knowledge, a fountain of information, and he's given people the free option there to ask questions.
Stephen nearly gave a compliment there. I said,
very hesitant. I had to pull myself back. I've blocked him, but he keeps coming back in.
But genuinely, like, you know, Ferg said, if you have any questions, do reach out to us and ask. Do reach out to Ferg. Do reach out to the SEAI.
Yeah.
They are very approachable people. We'll try and answer as many questions as we possibly can. Look, genuinely, this has been a very informative and excellent podcast for me. I've learned a huge amount. Look, there was huge questions. There was lots of excitement about the new SEAI grants that have been uplifted recently. That's why we got Stephen in. That's why this podcast hopefully has been the place where you can come and get all of the answers to the questions that are out there. We've done a bit of a deep dive on some things, but we tried to keep it as understandable as we can. So send this on to your friends, repost it, do whatever you can, and again, ask us any more questions, and we will certainly reach out to the SEAI and to any other entity that is required to give us this information. So I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Stephen, thank you very much for coming on board again.
No problem. Pleasure, guys.
Retrofit Guy.
Retrofit Guy.
It's been awesome, man. Boom. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, please follow, support, and repost and do all of those good things. Caring is sharing. Behind the Walls podcast with Pete and Retrofit Guy.